Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Players are very excited about opening up the season against a great College of Charleston team. Obviously an exciting time for not only our players, our coaches, our fans, everybody associated with our program. New season's upon us. We're kicking it off against a great opponent here at home.
You know, if we can just all stay healthy, I think that's the main thing to any season. You know, if you can keep your kids healthy and keep your pitchers healthy and keep your players, you know, on the field, then I think you got a chance. I think we got a chance to be pretty good.
Well, baseball season is upon us, but there's still plenty of basketball on our menu here on Sports Talk as we continue to follow that bouncing ball. On Tuesday night, we were at Clemson and at USC. Last night at the Buck Dome at Charleston Southern. And tonight, located courtside, Ben Johnson Arena at Wofford for a showdown of two of the top teams in the Southern Conference. The number one team, the Wofford Terriers, they're having another great year. The Terriers are 11-1 in league play. Tonight they host UT Chattanooga, which is 9-3 in the league, tied with Mercer for second place behind the Terriers. So Wofford can take another step forward towards a Southern Conference regular season championship with a win tonight. The Terriers at 20-5 overall. They've won 7 in a row, 9 of their last 10, and they are 11-0 here at home. So another great season for the Terriers in the works right now. We're going to be joined in a little bit by Richard Johnson, the longtime athletic director here at Wofford. Chad Holbrook, USC baseball coach, at the bottom of the hour, and joining us right now at our studios in Columbia, he is Kevin McCrary. Hey, Mac.
Hello, Corn. Hope you're well tonight. Glad to be back in the saddle here, holding down the fort in studio with the Steak Man, pro with the night off. But I can't believe baseball season is here. Cannot believe it. Was sitting at Carolina Stadium listening to Chad Holbrook talk. We had Jack Leggett on and Monty Lee yesterday. I'm pinching myself that college baseball season is actually upon us.
Yep. The long road to Omaha begins all across the country tomorrow. They'll have their first game at their new stadium at Coastal Carolina tomorrow as well. That is a beautiful new facility. In fact, next Thursday night, 1 week from tonight, we'll be broadcasting from the new stadium at Coastal Carolina, part of the lead-in to baseball at the beach down there next week, so look forward to that. But the Gamecocks at home against the College of Charleston, Clemson at home against West Virginia, and K-Mac, you know, as far as the Gamecocks go, a really tough 3-game set to open the season. This is no lightweight opponent coming to Carolina Stadium.
No, I mean, Charleston made it further in the postseason last year than South Carolina. They went to a super regional, lost to Texas Tech. I believe that one went, I think it was 2 games that they lost to Texas Tech in the super. But, you know, Monty Lee's got a very good team there. They were picked to win the CAA again, and they're not going to give an inch this weekend against the Gamecocks.
All right, got a great show for you tonight from Spartanburg and Columbia. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on Sports Talk tonight from the Ben Johnson Arena in Spartanburg and also from our studios in downtown Columbia. We'll get to your phone calls coming up in a little bit. Love to hear from you tonight. Of course, the number is 800-956-7266. Our email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, we are at SportsTalkSC. The website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. We are joined now by a longtime friend of Sports Talk, a guy that we've known for many, many years, from his days as a basketball coach, more recently his days as the athletic director here at Wofford College. Richard Johnson joining us here courtside at the Ben Johnson Arena. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Well, I'm going to have to talk to our sound people. They're playing that music just a little loud tonight.
Well, you know what? They don't play that for you and me. They play that for other people.
They do.
Yeah.
And I don't feel older except every time I come to a game, and I don't know any of the music they play.
Right. I've never recognized the music either. Don't really think about it. The music to me is the sound of the ball on the hardwood.
That's the music, and the squeak of the shoe on the hardwood floor. And to me, that's what makes basketball special. And when you drown it out with music, sometimes it's not the same.
What about the season the Terriers are having today?
Unbelievable. I'll tell you, Mike has done a terrific job with this team, as he always does. But I really, when you look at this, a lot of pressure on you, the defending Southern Conference champion, to come in and to go 11-1, and the only stumble to be down at the Citadel, and to win some close games, which we've done. We had this first game here was unbelievable, where Carl Cochran put on that performance. The Southern Conference Digital Network allows me to stay home and watch all the games. I don't have to go on the road anymore.
Right.
And I'll tell you what a game. I mean, that's one for the ages. In terms of an individual performance, it's as good as anything I've seen.
The funny thing about losing to the Citadel, there's nothing funny for you guys about that. I don't believe they've won since they beat you guys.
I'm not sure they have.
Yeah.
And, that was a game where, you got to play them every night. They're a good team. I mean, they're not a bad team, so there's no shame in losing. But it's a game that we played well enough to win. We made lots of mistakes down the stretch, and they hit some incredible shots. So it's the same thing. We probably should have won that one, but probably should have lost this one against Chattanooga. Sure. So they even out.
Yeah, give and take. Undefeated at home. How about that?
Well, we're going to be moving into the Richardson Indoor Stadium, and it's going to be spectacular. But there's something to be said about the friendly confines of the Ben Johnson Arena. And it's just been a great place to coach, a great place to play. And it's got, even though it's only, 30-some years old, it's got great tradition. We've had some barn burners here. Steph Curry's played in here. Terrell Owens played on this court in Chattanooga. And it's just we feed off the energy of this crowd, and our students have been phenomenal.
Visiting with Richard Johnson, the athletic director here at Wofford. So what's the game plan for building the new arena?
Well, we're still working on the floor plan to make sure we get it right. And I'd rather be a little slow in getting it built to make sure it's done right. This is, in my mind, this is a 100-year building. If you look at Cameron Indoor, they're celebrating the 75th anniversary of it, 1939. And, my grandchildren's grandchildren will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Richardson Indoor Stadium. So we hope that to begin construction and moving dirt somewhere around this time next year with an opening in the fall of 2017. So it should be ready for the 17-18 season.
So the Ben J's not going away right away?
Not right away. We think another 2 more years of playing in here, and then we hope to give it a great send-off. And what would be nice is to feed off of this energy of this crowd and the excitement of this program right now. It's an all-time high. We've been to tournament postseason play 4 times the last 5 years. We've been to the NCAA tournament as conference champions 3 out of the last 5. And if we can kind of keep that momentum going, those seats become a premium, and it creates its own little synergy in that new building.
How close did you come to losing Mike Young to the College of Charleston?
I don't know that we came that close. I know Mike's always going to be interested in listening. And Charleston is, it's a fabulous city. Let's not kid around. Yeah. And they've got a great facility as well. But I think ultimately, when you look at everything, I told Mike, I said, you got your AD, kind of likes basketball a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
and our senior development officer, senior vice president, David Wood, was our former AD. I worked for him. Mike's built a lot of equity here. Danny Morrison's a trustee, and Danny was here when we hired Mike as an assistant. Everybody wants Mike to be here, and I think Mike knows that, understands that. Mr. Richardson wanted to do in building, in giving us that arena, was he wanted to create something special. What do you need? And I think this is a manifestation of how much people think of the program and how much they think of Mike.
All right, let's talk about moving forward to other things. Baseball season about to commence for everybody tomorrow, including the Terriers. And, of course, football spring practice around the corner, another football season down the road. Your thoughts on where your baseball program is headed, and do you see a bounce back in football in 2015?
I think our baseball program is headed in the right direction. I think we made great strides last year, and we've done some things that may not show up for another 2 years, but I really think that we're got some resources committed to the program that we can take another step over the next couple of years. The only thing I'll say about baseball, we're playing Boston College tomorrow. It's going to be very, very cold, and if they run out of us in the press box, the AD is going to be watching it on the network.
And BC should be used to it. I mean, they only left 70 inches of snow.
It's an advantage for them. They're used to it.
Yeah.
The other thing is football. And, when you have Mike Ayers coaching your football team, you're going to be a factor every year. And we've had a couple of things that, in timing of that didn't go well last year. But I really think Mike's got everybody. They've had a great offseason. They've recruited well, and they had some good young kids last year. We're just kind of feeling their way around. And then we lost our starting quarterback, midway through the year. So I think Mike will have him back ready to go again. And let me tell you, it's a tough league. I mean, Mercer has gotten very good very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Furman just got this, they lost their quarterback, and one guy had a huge impact on that program. So I think with those two guys, and then you got Chattanooga that, you 10 years ago, you're going to beat Chattanooga. I mean,
Right.
You're going to win on your schedule, if
Right.
nothing else. Now, Russ Huseman's got that, number 8 seed in the playoffs. And I was in the room as a member of the FCS football committee when we were talking about Chattanooga. Everybody knows how good they are, and everybody's impressed by the job Russ Huseman's done there. So I think the league is going to be as strong as ever. And to point that out, Appalachian Georgia Southern finished 4-4 in our league, and then Georgia Southern goes into to an FBS, supposedly a higher level, and they win the league.
Yeah.
So, that tells you the level of quality of Southern Conference football.
No question about it. Looking for a good crowd tonight?
We are. We think it's going to be a great crowd. And this is really the first crowd of students that we'll have back after Christmas where it's not interim. So with a student body of 1,600 and you have 200 to 300 students off campus interim in January, now you drop that down to 1,300 again. That makes it harder to draw. But our student, even in the interim, it's the best interim we've ever had for student attendance. The place has been full. People have been standing up top, and it's been a raucous crowd, raucous atmosphere. And I think tonight the students are going to come out in big numbers, and we're going to have a great crowd. And this, on paper, should be a terrific game. Will Wade does a great job. He's got great players, and I hope the game lives up to the billing, because if you like basketball, this ought to be one you want to watch.
Well, we thank you for coming over and spending some time with us. Always a pleasure for us to come up to Wofford, and we'll see you sometime in the summer and leading up to football.
Look forward to it. Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you so much.
Appreciate it, Phil.
You got it. Richard Johnson, the AD here at Wofford, and, of course, longtime basketball coach as well. I kid him. He's got to be the biggest AD in the entire country. He's about 6'8", 6'9", so he could carry his weight, so to speak, on the hardwood back in the day. All right, we'll hit a break coming up here on Sports Talk in just a moment. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266, the number. Chad Holbrook right around the corner. We'll get his preseason breakdown of the Gamecocks for 2015. Are they good enough to get to Omaha? I feel like he believes that they are. We'll hear from him coming up shortly. Be right back. SEC baseball coaches came out with their preseason poll today in the SEC East. South Carolina is picked third behind defending national champion Vanderbilt, and Florida at number 2. Tennessee 4, Georgia 5, Kentucky 6, Missouri 7. In the West, it's LSU number 1, followed by Alabama, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Auburn. Vanderbilt gets the nod overall as the SEC champion. On the coaches' preseason All-SEC team, Gamecock second baseman Max Schrock and third baseman D.C. Orendis. They make the first team by the coaches. On the second team, first baseman Kyle Martin, DH utility player Taylor Widener, who will also be the Gamecocks closer, is on the second team. So K-Mac, the Gamecocks can go into this season after years of kind of being the favorite, both in the SEC and nationally. They really can kind of go in here as no pressure from the outside. The only pressure will be internally and from their own fans. But, I mean, nationally, and as far as the SEC is concerned, they're not the preseason pick to even win their division. Maybe that'll take some pressure off of them.
I don't think so. I really don't. I think every year, if you're South Carolina, a program that there's pressure to go to Omaha every year, and after the 2010 and 2011 seasons, pressure to win in Omaha every year. So that's not going to change one bit. If this team finishes third in the SEC and goes to Omaha, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to care at all. If they finish first in the SEC and they get beat in a super regional, people are going to care.
Well, that's true. That is true. I mean, the ultimate goal is to get to Omaha no matter how you get there, and getting hot at the right time in May and early June. That's when you want to be playing your best baseball. We'll ask Chad Holbrook about that, if maybe the preseason expectations of others outside of his immediate area changes their approach in any way. He'll be coming up in just a couple of moments. Also, today from USC, they announced that the Gamecocks will have 5 former players at the Combine, which begins next week in Indianapolis. Rory Anderson, A.J. Cann, Mike Davis, Corey Robinson, and J.T. Surratt will all be on hand to represent the Gamecocks. Presented by the Palmetto Project, the Federal Health Insurance Marketplace will close February 15th for Americans looking for affordable health insurance. Find out how you can join the thousands of South Carolinians who've already signed up by visiting healthcare.gov. We're at the Ben Johnson Arena in Spartanburg. We're about 30 minutes away from tip-off. It will be Wofford and UT Chattanooga, the top 2 teams, along with Mercer, in the Southern Conference at this point in the season. And the Terriers looking to stay undefeated at home. And if they win tonight, they'll inch closer to clinching the regular season crown in the Southern Conference this year, the number 1 seed for the tournament in Asheville coming up next month. All right, Chad Holbrook, Gamecock baseball coach, next up on our lineup here on Sports Talk on this Thursday night. We'll be right back. Sports Talk on a Thursday night. Phil Kornblut in Spartanburg at the Ben Johnson Arena. Big basketball game here tonight. Wofford and UT Chattanooga. Kevin McCrary is back at our studios in downtown Columbia along with the stake man Graham Pope. Right now we turn our attention away from hoops to baseball. It is time to roll out the bats and the balls once again all across the country. D1 teams play their first game of the season tomorrow. We welcome in to Sports Talk USC head coach Chad Holbrook. Gamecocks to take on the College of Charleston weekend series at Carolina Stadium. Coach, how are you this evening?
I'm good, Bill. How are you doing?
We're great. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know you are just chomping at the bit to get at it again, another baseball season for you at South Carolina. How you feeling about this group coming out of preseason practice? From what you've seen, excitement level pretty high for you.
Well, yeah, we're ready to get started. You know, we're jumping right into the fray, I guess, so to speak, against a quality opponent in the College of Charleston. So we'll find out where we stand pretty quickly. But it's been a good group so far. We've had a good preseason. We have a few guys banged up, but not too many, I guess. It's been worse from an injury standpoint around here. So we're relatively healthy, I guess, the right way to put it. And, but all in all, you know, our kids have worked hard since September. I think they're ready to see another team, and they need to be excited because we got a great opponent coming in here this weekend.
Oh, no question about that. Do you have some guys, you mentioned the injury factor, do you have some guys that you know are definitely not going to be able to help you this weekend?
Not really. I mean, Kyle Martin is a little sore. He's a little bit banged up, and Marcus Mooney has a little bit of a twinge in his hamstring. But I think I know those guys will be available. Kyle practiced 100% today, and he did so again yesterday. So I think he'll be ready. Marcus is a little bit more of a concern. You know, that injury of a hamstring can nag if you don't take care of it. And so I may be a little bit conservative with the way I treat Marcus this weekend. I got to make sure that he's healthy and ready to go. Come conference time. So, but all in all, I think for the most part we're healthy. Those are the two injuries that kind of concern me the most.
Are you satisfied that in camp you were able to get all your questions answered as you go into regular season play, and you feel like with your starting lineup, and I know things can change during a season, but at least starting out you've got the right people in the right place?
No, I don't know if I'm 100% satisfied in that regard or comfortable. I think I got from a position player standpoint, I have some depth, and I have a bunch of guys, fighting for the left field spot, for example, and that's going to kind of evolve as we go forward. I don't think who necessarily you see in the lineup opening day, they might not be in the starting lineup come the first game of conference season. I think some things will evolve as we get underway, and I feel good about the core group of our players. Our regulars. The Max Schrocks and the Kyle Martins and D.C. Arendas and, Marcus Mooney, Jordan Gore, Gene Cunn. I feel great about those guys. But there's a couple, and Connor Brock, not Connor, but there's a couple other guys that are fighting to get in there and deserve a chance to get in there, and I'm going to give them an opportunity because they've performed well in the preseason, and it won't just be one guy, like Elliot Caldwell and Patrick Carrington. Those guys deserve a crack at it, and so I'm going to give them that.
What's the personality of this team? Have you got a read on that yet?
Well, it's been a good group. I mean, I think they worked extremely hard. I like their character. I like their intangibles. I like how hard they worked. I don't think it's very difficult to define a true personality of your team until you start playing games and see if you can handle adversity and how you handle a loss or how you handle an injury situation. Those are questions that get answered when you play other opponents. And so there's a lot to be learned as we start the season. Obviously, we're excited about our team and excited about the talent level and excited about, some new faces, some freshmen that are going to be getting, their first indoctrination of playing in Carolina Stadium and playing in SEC ball. And so there's a lot of things that are new. We have some guys that we have to replace from a year ago that were so talented, and like Jordan Montgomery and Joel Seddon and Griner and Pancake. So we got some unanswered questions, but I think we have some talented guys trying to fight their way in there, and I'm excited about watching them play.
what's your comfort level with your catching situation?
Well, Logan Koch and Hunter Taylor, they're two leading the way right now, and Logan's a very polished defender, extremely comfortable with him. Hunter's more of a offensive type catcher that's improved a lot defensively. Asking them to be the next Grayson Griner, that's not fair. I don't know if they're in that. They're certainly not in that category, but they're very, very solid guys that can handle our pitching staff, and they're going to do everything we ask them to do. And I think at the end of the year, hopefully our catching situation is the strength of our team, and I have confidence in those guys.
All right, and so your starting rotation to begin the season, you got a couple of veterans on the front end and a youngster that came on for you last year and showed you a lot of good things. And then on the back end of that bullpen, you're going to go with the hard-throwing Taylor Widener. What did you see from him that convinced you the best place for him was in a closer's role versus a starter's role?
Well, and Taylor's got great stuff, and and his velocity is when he throws in short stints, his velocity seems to be elite. When we ask him to get 3 or 6 outs, it's he's got a mid-90s fastball. He's running up there good. He's got some good movement and some single fastballs. His breaking ball is much improved. He's also improved. He got an improved changeup as well. So I just think that his stuff was kind of a little bit more electric and more elite when we were asking him to get outs in short stints. And we love his demeanor and his makeup, and that ultimately was the reason why we kind of gave him the nod to start the year.
Is he the kind of guy that you can bring back repeatedly day after day in those situations where you need to get yourself a win? Can he handle that?
Yeah, he's very resilient. He bounces back well. He doesn't have another factor of why we, wanted to put him in the pen. He's one of those guys that can throw every day. He's kind of got a rubber band arm. He's loose, and like I said, he bounces back good. So he's got the traits, all the necessary traits that you want to have in a really, really good elite-type closer. And now that being said, this is new to him. And so there's going to be a period of an adjustment. And there might be some growing pains from time to time, but, boy, he certainly has he has a talented enough arm and good enough stuff to be a special guy back there for us.
Well, you know that you and Tanner, you built this animal called Gamecock Baseball, and people got used to you going to Omaha. You haven't been in a couple of years now, so people are getting a little bit antsy. And I know nobody's more antsy than you. So how do you deal with that kind of pressure? Because the expectations are unfair. It's so hard to get to Omaha. No one can expect a team to go year after year after year. But the fans are kind of ready to go back.
Yeah, we're ready to go back too. But at the same point in time, we're trying to win the next game. We're trying to do our best the next day. The goal for my team is I want them to achieve. I want them to play up their potential and achieve achieve what they're capable of achieving. I think they're enough to be one of those teams standing in the end, but I also understand the game of baseball. It's hard and sometimes can be cruel. And if I live every day of my life and thinking Omaha or bust or, man, we got to get to Omaha, heck, I won't be able to sleep at night, and my players won't be able to relax and play the way they're capable of playing. So we're going to take it one game at a time. I know that's coaches speak, but I harp on that every day. We try to win, try to go 1-0, and the next day try to go 1-0 again, and hopefully come June is good enough and we're playing our best baseball. But I got to try to live in the moment as best I can.
Well, we wish you the best luck. Look forward to a nice, long baseball season with you and a long ride to Omaha, perhaps. And we'll be talking to you many, many times. And thanks for your time tonight, as always.
Okay, Phil. Thanks for having me, and look forward to seeing you soon.
You got it, sir. And that's Chad Holbrook, USC baseball coach, about to embark on what could be another run to Omaha for USC baseball. They certainly have talents. They certainly have experience, but they also have some unknowns, and those unknowns are going to have to step up and play in a big way if they're going to take that next big step back to Omaha. Back in a moment. We'll give you some recruiting notes coming up here in just a couple of minutes on Sports Talk. Let's jump to your phone calls for a couple of minutes, 800-956-7266. We go to John in his office. Hello, John from the office. How are you?
Hey, Phil. It's my corporate offices, the Ivory Tower, better known as the Ivory Tower. But
Gotcha.
I just wanted to make a comment. I always wanted to play golf like Tiger Woods, and now I am.
Boom, boom.
Don't insult your golf game like that. I mean, you're not chili dipping it when you're trying to chip across the green.
Look,
you haven't seen my game.
At some point in time, those of us who play golf and play it seriously, we all have the yips, okay? So I kind of know where Tiger's coming from. I understand what he's going through right now. Unfortunately, people like us don't have an army of teachers and consultants to help you get over it.
Well, he's got brain damage now. He's lack of confidence. He used to putt that used to save his life, and now he doesn't have that, and he doesn't have a chipping game anymore. I mean, it's sad. But it's great to see John Daly up in the hunt today. That's nice.
65. But it makes you wonder. You're Tiger Woods. How do you lose all that you had in your golf game? Or is it just simply the nature of the game of golf that nobody can ever master it forever?
It's the nature of the game. Obviously, it's nature. If you lack confidence, it will, you just brain cramp. It's brain drain damage.
Yeah, but for a guy like Tiger, who was so mentally dialed in, I mean, he crushed people with his people. Their brains collapsed because of how he played. And, we know your body can break down. It happens to everybody. But this is more than just that. I mean, he's not 60 years old. He should still be competitive. Phil Mickelson is getting older, but he's still very competitive. And you have slumps, but the way he's playing now, what happened here in the past 18 months to him, it's something completely different. It's hard to wrap your brain around.
Yeah, and here's part of the deal. Tiger's in love. He is in love, and he's more involved with his lady, and he's also more involved with his kids, and I think that aspect of his life has changed. My guess is golf is not his number one priority any longer.
But that doesn't explain him sculling the ball across the green in Phoenix. I mean, Phil Mickelson's wife battled cancer, and he went out and won Augusta. I mean, Tiger's not the only player on the tour that is in love and has kids and has gone through a divorce. Okay, I mean, that kind of rings hollow. We're not talking about just your everyday Joe. This is a guy that was the best player in the world by a lot. So I mean, I think a lot of excuses are out there, but I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe it is that. I'm not buying it. I think something's happened to him in his life where he got exposed. I think whatever happened with that wreck and his personal details came out, he got out of that marriage, and then maybe some people came into his life that gave him bad advice. I don't know, but it is certainly one of the more stunning collapses that I've ever seen in sports. Maybe that's been out there in sports. I mean, Jack Nicklaus, this guy, he won 18 majors, and, he was married, and, he slowed down, and no one would fault Tiger for slowing down. And there's some really good young players out there now, like Rory McIlroy. But for him just to not be able to make a cut, for him to go out there and shoot in the 80s, I mean, that's a real head scratcher for me. And, man, I hope he gets it back together. I still am holding out hope. I mean, he's never going to be the Tiger that he was a la 2004. I get that. But I want him to make a run at Augusta again. I want to see him in the thick of things at a U.S. Open again, or at an Open Championship across the pond. I want to see that happen again, and I hope that happens. I hope Tiger isn't getting closer to just saying, okay, I'm going to exit stage right, I'm done. But I hope he gets back to actually winning tournaments again.
Yeah, I agree with you. Listen, my interest in any non-major golf tournament is hyped considerably when Tiger's in the field. and especially when Tiger's in contention, and especially when Tiger is winning. Because, listen, I like to see greatness do its thing, and it bothers me that Tiger Woods, for whatever reason, has fallen by the wayside. It's unbelievable that it's been, over 6 years since he won a major, I think, 2008, when he last won a U.S. Open. So that's just – but things are going on with him, K-Mac, and I'm telling you, his mind's not all in on golf right now. You talk about those other guys, and their focus was terrific, but his just isn't there, plus the injuries. Yeah. All right, we'll come back with recruiting in a moment right here on Sports Talk. All right, let me give you some recruiting here on Sports Talk before I say so long for a little while I watch this Wofford-Chattanooga game. I'll come back at halftime and update you on how this game is progressing to see if Wofford can win another home game, take another step toward the Southern Conference regular season championship. But in recruiting, Brandon Tillman from River Bluff, 6'1", 205, has to be one of the state's most versatile athletes for the coming season. Coach David Bennett said he used him as quarterback, running back, defensive end, outside and inside linebacker, cornerback, and free safety last season. Bennett says he's a natural outside linebacker, a nickel back. Says he's one of the best he's ever been around. He likes him at quarterback because they want the ball in his hands on every play. What's interesting is he's also a baseball standout as a right-handed pitcher, but he throws a football with his left hand. Baseball with the right hand, football with the left hand. Go figure that out in your brain. Anyway, he attended USC's junior day in January, but Bennett said Clemson is the one showing the strongest interest right now of the major in-state programs. He says Brent Venables loves him. He runs a 4.4, but he's really 4.5 all day. Georgia Tech and Citadel also like him, see him as an option quarterback. Georgia Southern, Auburn, and Wake Forest are also showing interest. Last season, 1,269 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns, 1,478 yards passing, and 8 touchdowns. Defensive lineman Naquan Jones, 6'4", 283 of Evanston, Illinois, flying to Columbia today along with a teammate and his mentor for an official visit to USC on Friday. The mentor is from Myrtle Beach, and he's gotten Jones interested in USC, though Jones has not had much contact with the Gamecocks to this point, but he expects that to change after this visit. He said he hopes to leave with an offer. He has 10 offers to date, including Pittsburgh, Penn State, Iowa, Michigan State, Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky, which offered today. Jones said he's not all that familiar with the Gamecocks. He's hoping to learn more. Wants to spend a lot of time with the defensive coaches, including the defensive line coach, where he can start to build a relationship with him. No favorites at this point. No timetable for a decision. Last season he had 38 tackles and 5 sacks. And Clemson target, offensive lineman Jack DeFore from Georgia, was offered by Louisville yesterday. And wide receiver Brian Edwards of Conway, who's been favoring South Carolina, he picked up an offer yesterday from Cal Berkeley. There you go with recruiting. Don't forget to check out our recruiting regularly online at our website, sportstalksc.com. What was that, K-Mac?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, Mac, don't put the no thought in people's minds.
No, don't do it.
Stay positive.
Don't do it.
Positively, absolutely do it. Do it for me, from me for now, here at Ben Johnson Arena. I'll check back with you, K-Mac, before the show ends in the next hour.
Absolutely. We will keep an eye on that game. More sports talk coming up in hour number 2. Stick around.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary holding it down here in our studio. No Tom Hayes. He has the night off. Corn is up in Spartanburg, taking in Wofford and Chattanooga. And we'll check in with him when that game hits the half. Big game there for the Terriers as they continue to roll along. And, you know, Wofford might have to carry the flag for the Palmetto State in the tournament, depending on what happens in that topsy-turvy Big South, and we'll talk more about that later. In fact, we'll hear from Barkley Radeball from that big win for the Bucks in Charleston Southern last night over the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. And certainly Charleston, Coastal, Winthrop, any one of those three teams could make a run in the Big South tournament. But Wofford, you know, they're one of a few teams nationally right now that have 20 wins. They're sitting at 11-1 in the SoCon. And when you look at March Madness, you know, Clemson, you know, they're on the bubble to be on the bubble. And if they finish strong and make a run in the ACC tournament, maybe they could sneak in. South Carolina, well, heck, we know they have to win the SEC tournament to get in, and that's not going to happen. So it's going to be another missed opportunity. Well, I shouldn't say missed opportunity because this wasn't a season where anybody expected the Gamecocks to be in the NCAA tournament. I think some of us, especially after watching them play in December and early part of January, thought they might be in the NIT, but even that is looking unlikely at this time. So Wofford is the team in the state right now. They're the best basketball team in the state in terms of a chance to go to the tournament, and depending on where they match up and what their seed is, maybe they can win a game. And Mike Young is just a tremendous basketball coach, and it has been quite a coup for the Terriers to keep him around. That other schools haven't come calling Mike Young because he can dial up a game plan with the best of them. He's one of the nicest guys in the business. To meet Mike Young is to like him, and he's always been gracious with us on Sports Talk, and that includes when he's in Spokane, Washington, or wherever they send the Terriers for a tournament game, you know, coming on with us and breaking down the game. And just, you know, I know Corn's enjoying watching them play tonight, and we'll see how they do against Chattanooga. So that's where things stand there. Now, we've talked a lot of baseball, of course. Chad Holbrook on in our last hour, and there's some Chad Holbrook from his news conference earlier today up on our website. USC picked third in the SEC East behind Vanderbilt, defending national champ in Florida. Hard to argue that right now. A couple of Gamecocks on the preseason all-conference. Rendis making the first team for the Gamecocks. Max Schrock also on the first team for the Gamecocks. Chad Holbrook said that's great. He said he'll give him a half pat on the back now, a full pat and a hug if they are on the all-conference team in June when they hand out the postseason awards. So all this basketball talk, all this baseball talk, how about a little football? You know what? Vegas has a line on South Carolina, North Carolina, the season opener at Bank of America Stadium. I'll tell you what it is coming up. I know how you feel. So many months until college football season. What are you going to do to bide the time? It'll be here before you know it. There's a little consolation for you. 7 months, it'll fly right by. But just to wet your whistle, something to keep you dialed in to college football. How about for degenerate gamblers and just people that want some football talk alike? Opening lines for a few of the big games in the opening week of the college football season, including South Carolina and North Carolina at Bank of America Stadium on Thursday, September 3rd. South Carolina, the Gamecocks, a 7.5-point favorite. 7.5-point favorite for the Gamecocks against the Tar Heels. That is a pretty high spread, I got to say. You know, considering South Carolina, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Now, North Carolina, I know they have their questions as well. But
Battle of atrocious 2014 Ds right there.
Yeah. Oh, boy, yeah. North Carolina's defense was
worse than South Carolina.
Even South Carolina. I mean, Lorenzo Ward's going, man, that was bad defense the Tar Heels had. Yeah, that was a rough one. I mean, they gave up 70 against East Carolina. Clemson dropped half 100 on them. But their offense was pretty good last year. And you know that they've got an offensive-minded coach in Larry Fedora. But 7.5 points, the Gamecocks favored by. So do you take that 7.5? You lay the 7? He's like, right now, I would be inclined to take it if I'm North Carolina. I'll take the points. Now, there's 7 months for this thing to change. And, I got to figure out who South Carolina's quarterback's going to be before I decide how many points I think they can score. I think the defense, I have no doubt the defense is going to be better. Now, that's not really going out on a limb because they really have one direction to go. Right. But they're going to be better defensively. Now, are they going to be a top 10 defense? I'm not going that far, but I think they'll have a serviceable defense. How will that offense perform is a big, big question. I'm worried about who the guy that is going to throw the passes is going to be, and I'm worried about who the guy or guys to catch the passes, not named Pharaoh Cooper, are going to be. Teams are going to try to take away Pharaoh Cooper, and that could be easier said than done, but somebody else is going to have to step up. I would feel a lot better about this South Carolina offense if Shaq Rowland was able to keep it together and come back, because I just always felt like he was, he had all the skills to do it physically, and he made some great plays in his short career with the Gamecocks. That Georgia game, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns in that game. I mean, he was a difference maker, and that first touchdown was a very good play, and I think he had almost a circus type catch on a touchdown. But that being said, he's gone, so the Gamecocks are going to have somebody else step up. But they are a 7.5-point favorite right now, according to 5dimes.com, the sports book there. Some other notable lines on that opening spreadsheet: Michigan at Utah. That's another Thursday night game, 9 o'clock. Michigan, the Fighting Harbaughs, getting 1.5 at Utah. So they're going to be a road underdog against the Utes. Getting into the Saturday games opening weekend, Arizona State, Texas A&M, and the Aggies are a 4-point favorite in that one over the Sun Devils. Alabama and Wisconsin, that one in Arlington. I think that one's at Jerry World. And Alabama is a 13-point favorite on Wisconsin right now.
They always play well week 1, and then Wisconsin's got a whole new regime coming in. So
yeah,
that stands to reason. And they're one-dimensional.
They lost their coach, yeah. So the Alabama, a 13-point favorite there. Virginia at UCLA, and the Hoos are getting 16 against the Bruins. And that one's in Los Angeles. Texas at Notre Dame. Of course, Clemson will play Notre Dame next season in Death Valley. And Texas is getting 1.5 in South Bend against the Fighting Irish. So Notre Dame, a 10.5-point favorite there. Auburn at Louisville in Atlanta, assuming that Bobby Petrino doesn't decide he doesn't want to play this game between now and Labor Day in Atlanta at the Dome, part of that kickoff weekend, and Louisville will be getting 10 points. And you better hide all the women and children there in Atlanta that weekend. I'm not going to stop on Bobby Petrino. It's low-hanging fruit. but I think every night we should just remind people what an a-hole Bobby Petrino is. So there'll be a lot of Auburn fans, whether you like Auburn or not. I'm sure there will be a lot of people rooting for Auburn in that matchup September 5th. And
where'd you say that was?
It's in Atlanta, the Dome.
Oh, it's the neutral side. Okay.
Yeah, it's that kickoff, the Chick-fil-A group or the Georgia kickoff club, whatever that game
Peach
is.
Bowl
Yeah,
people.
the Peach Bowl. That's it. The Peach Bowl committee that puts that game. That's a great game. I mean, that's one of those carve out your evening and watch it. That's a 7:00 Labor Day game. Although we have some competition for our attention now that Darlington will be racing that night this year, and they're dropping the green flag about that time. In Ohio State, defending national champ Ohio State. Now this is one, Ohio State lost one game last year. It was at home against Virginia Tech, and nobody after that game, I remember seeing that score go, man, Ohio State is done without Braxton Miller. They're just going to be a complete catastrophe. Well, they ended up being okay when it was all said and done, and they lost another quarterback before it was all said and done. They play Virginia Tech on the opening weekend, and that's great scheduling right there for that to come out this way.
They going to Lane Stadium, I guess?
They're going to Lane Stadium. Virginia Tech is grabbing 16 points at home in the season opener. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the 16 right now. If you put a gun to my head.
It is week 1.
Week 1, Lane Stadium. Bud Foster have all summer to dial something up. Who is going to be taking the snaps for Ohio State in that game? Yeah, they have quarterback questions. Those
quality questions.
Those are the best. That's the kind of quarterback problem you want to have right there if you're Urban Meyer. This guy's sitting on 3 quarterbacks that could start for 99% of schools in college football.
Can you win a title and have your job taken? Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of assume that Braxton Miller is going to transfer. I mean, that
you would think so.
Yeah, we figure he's going to be somewhere else, whether that's Florida State. I mean, I've seen him linked to Duke, for crying out loud. And it's, you laugh, but they have one of the best quarterback coaches in the country right there. A guy, if you want to get ready for the next level, play 1 year, that wouldn't be a bad guy to play for. And he'd put up video game stats. And if you're thinking big picture,
or do Braxton's people get in his ear and tell him if we're going to play in the NFL, we need to go ahead and switch positions now? I think that's got to be an option for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he wants to be a quarterback. If he's going to switch positions, I guess he could do that at the Ohio State University. But they're going to be good, the Buckeyes, next year. And Urban Meyer, Urban Meyer's kind of a jerk too, no doubt about it. But he's not on the level of Bobby Petrino jerkiness. He's, he would be like, he's in like the Mount Rushmore of jerk coaches. You've got Bobby Petrino, and he is kind of like the George Washington of them. He's definitely the kingpin. But in that Mount Rushmore, you do have to include Urban Meyer.
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, he's the Thomas Jefferson. Lane Kiffin has to be in there as well. He's kind of polishing up his image a little bit. He had an opportunity to go back to the NFL as an offensive coordinator. He stayed at Alabama. And, if he keeps doing well there, in 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever plan Steve Spurrier's on, and they're looking for a coach, would South Carolina look at him? Oh, my goodness. I mean, he can recruit. He's a great play caller. I mean, the guy's throwing his hands up in the air when they're in the formation.
You think the message boards are bad now? Wait till the hiring of Lane Kiffin at South Carolina.
Lane Kiffin. You heard it here first. Lane Kiffin will be the next coach at South Carolina. But, yeah, he would definitely be on that Rushmore too. So there you go. Some opening lines from 5dimes.com. I'm not willing to lay 7.5 points with the Gamecocks against North Carolina. I'm going to need a little more convincing here. Let's see what happens in the spring before we even think about that. So there's a little football talk here to get you through this cold winter night. Here's a tough story. Former Charlotte Hornet, New York Knick, Anthony Mason. He was one of the, really kind of the kingpins there in the early days of the Charlotte Hornets, the fan favorite. He is apparently in a serious situation after a heart attack, dealing with congestive heart failure, fighting for his life, according to reports. I just saw something come down social media indicating that he improved slightly today, but Anthony Mason is in serious condition after a heart attack several days ago and now dealing with a congestive heart failure situation. His son actually plays at Auburn, and Pope and I were talking about this during the break when South Carolina was playing Auburn a few weeks ago. That was a televised game on a Saturday night. They kept showing Anthony Mason standing there in the tunnel watching his son play. And I remember when I saw him, I was like, whoa, because athletes, for whatever reason, if you haven't seen them in a while, you always remember them like as you watch them play. Yeah, I can still see Anthony Mason, in his Hornets uniform or his Knicks uniform, playing with Jackson and Larry Johnson and that group that ended up going to the NBA Finals in the strike-shortened season. But he didn't look good then, and clearly he's not doing well now. So hopefully that'll turn out well for him. And I never have interviewed him or talked to him other than watching him play, but some of the people that covered him in Charlotte said he was one of the most interesting people to ever come through that market in terms of unique and kind of a fun guy to cover. That's how he was described and remembered. So hopefully that'll work out well. And his son's a pretty good player, as I recall. What was his name? Was
it Antoine Mason?
Or Antoine Mason?
Something similar to Anthony.
Yeah, but his son was not a bad player, or is not a bad player for Auburn. He had a pretty decent game against South Carolina. I'm trying to remember his name. I had it in front of me. I think it's Antoine Mason. I think you're right. Antoine Mason. So, thoughts with the Mason family there. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk a little basketball and get a recap of that big game in the Big South. Charleston Southern at the Buck Dome last night got it done over the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, and that's a big win for Barclay Radio Ball because they stay at the top or get a piece of that top share of the Big South and, potential bye in the tournament. And High Point came back and beat Winthrop last night by a point. So that knocked Winthrop down a peg there because Winthrop was in pretty good shape with head-to-head wins over Coastal and Charleston Southern. But after the break, we'll hear from Charleston Southern coach Barclay Radebaugh, and we'll get a few comments as well from Cliff Ellis because you always get a chance to listen to Cliff Ellis. You take that opportunity and don't miss it. He's a fun guy to listen to talk. So that coming up after the break. Sports Talk continues. We will check in with Corn coming up from the Wofford game as they play Chattanooga. And we'll check out the top-ranked USC women, see how they're doing at home against LSU. All that coming up.
You know, at the 8-minute media, we talked about getting consecutive stops because it was up to tied.
There were 20 lead changes, and then it got.
Frank Martin is doing his radio show. He said Justin Mackey practiced today and, barring any setbacks, should make the trip to Lexington and be available for the matchup against the top-ranked Wildcats. Marcus Stroman, who did not play Tuesday against Missouri because of an illness, according to Martin, has not had anything to eat or drink since Sunday, and he was put into the hospital today for IV fluids and tests. Now, after the game Tuesday night, Martin said that Stroman tested negative for mono and strep, so they felt good about that, but he had a temperature, so they couldn't let him around the team. But he's that helps him. I mean, he kind of makes him go off the bench with some energy. He's a great on-ball defender. He's fearless. I like the way he plays offensively. He still has to polish up some things, hone in that outside shot, but he is a fearless player. I think he's going to be a very good player as he develops, but they might not have him against Kentucky. That's looking very doubtful right now, given the fact that he hasn't eaten anything in almost a week. Let's go down to Charleston on what Barkley Bradaball had to say after Charleston Southern knocked off Coastal Carolina last night. Kornblut caught up with Barkley to talk about that big win, a crucial win in terms of the Big South standings.
You know, at the 8-minute media, we talked about getting consecutive stops because it was up to, tied, down to, up to, tied, down to. And we talked about 3 or 4 or 5 stops in a row so that when we did score, it was meaningful. And instead of trying to, being down 3 and you hit a big 3, let's get up 6, and now you hit a big 3 and it puts you up 9. So we just talked on the defensive end about staying in front, about being active with our hands, about staying in the gaps, about working hard and putting ourselves in a position to be successful defensively, not getting too spread out, handling their ball screens a little bit better, not letting them split ball screens. And to our guys' credit, they did that the last 7 minutes, and we were able to deliver a pretty good blow.
Yeah. Cliff knows your team extremely well, obviously, and his players know your team, and they know Nimley has unbelievable range, coached his team defensively for that. But even knowing that, he was still able to get further, deeper away and make his shots.
Phil, he is the most underpublicized, underrated player in the country. He's one of the best players in the country. He just happens to play at a small school in a small conference. He's courageous. He makes incredible plays. He leads our team. He's poised. He had a couple turnovers. He defends. He's got to eliminate those turnovers. But other than that, Phil, he's like unbelievable. And it's every night. And every defense is geared to stop him. The way they hedged ball screens. And it worked. And what Si's got to do is what we did in the second half is he can't just move when he has the ball in his hands. He's got to move without the ball. It's like having a wide receiver. If you only put him on the left side, if you don't move him around, then he's easier to guard. And Si's got to learn, because he's so marked, that he's got to move without the ball. And it's really difficult for a point guard to do.
Well, terrific win in that it gives you a share of first place still moving forward to this weekend. Anything can happen down the stretch, but staying on top of the pack right now or in that mix, obviously it's huge because you want to get the bye into the tournament as well. You guys take it a game at a time, but are anybody feeling the pressure of what is a knockdown, drag-out, contentious fight within the conference heading down the stretch?
I really learned from Coach Fogler in my years with him, and I remember that run through the SEC, 15-1. And I remember every day, he would say, not too high, not too low, one at a time. Every day. Going 10-0, not too high, not too low, one at a time. We've added one thing to that. We always say not too high, not too low, one day at a time. Your only pressure is to improve today. We put tremendous pressure on them to improve yesterday. Tremendous pressure today. And so when they get in a pressure situation, they're used to it. And we never talk about the past. We never talk about the future. I told them, you got 120 minutes to enjoy this, and you better start thinking about Longwood. Because if we win this one and go up there and lose, then we're right back, in second. So the pressure is every day to perform. And so when they get out in the game, hopefully the game is easier than what they face every day in practice.
All right, besides the run in the second half that kind of gave you the work margin and you were able to hold on to that, what other things did you see from your team tonight that really pleased you?
I thought we really worked well in the post. They really hurt us in the post in Conway. I thought we did a really good job in defensive transition. We asked our 4 and our 5 to sprint back and clog up the gaps so that they couldn't get pitch aheads and movement and get to the rim. When they get to the rim and we have to help over, now the rotation is happening, and now that's when they offensive rebound it with their great size because there's nobody to check out those post players. So we wanted to get in the gaps. They followed our game plan. I mean, our guys really followed our game plan, and they're just a really good team. And so it was blow after blow after blow. We told them, like we told them before the game, stay in the center of the ring, keep swinging. Don't come to the stool. Don't look for the cut doctor. Okay, stay in the center of the ring and keep swinging. And then when you get tired, we're going to send somebody else out there to swing for you. And they did it. So those were the keys: rebounding and being able to defend in transition were really important for us against a really good Coastal team.
Congratulations. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. It means a lot to me. Thanks.
All right, Wofford and Chattanooga, 14-14. 2:37 to play in the half. So a low-scoring affair early there, a defensive struggle. The USC women, at last check, they were up big, around 20 points as they were approaching the half. The Gamecocks coming off a loss at UConn, their first of the season, taking out some frustration against LSU, and they are winning big. I don't apologize. I don't have a score. I'm just following things here via Twitter. PC is up 24-20 right now in their matchup at UNC Asheville. So the Blue Hose are winning. And I think those are the only local games that we have going on right now. And we'll check in with Corn here shortly. Actually, we have Furman at VMI and the Citadel at Sanford. So let's check those two games. Let's pull up the old scoreboard. No ACC games tonight. Florida and Ole Miss, the only SEC game right now, as we take a peek at our college basketball scoreboard. And the Gators and Rebels knotted up 16-16. And let's head back over to the Southern Conference here and see if we can get you the other two in-state scores. And coming up on the other side of the break, we will hear from Cliff Ellis, as promised, and see what he had to say. Still very much in the thick of things are the Chanticleers, but the tiebreaker situation not working in their favor now, and they are out of that first place tie. So Coastal and Winthrop now both on the outside looking in terms of the top of the standings. But still, what's really pivotal is getting the bye in the first round of that conference tournament if you're one of those teams. And I think the top 6 teams get those byes. And there was a 5-way tie atop the standings yesterday. And of course, that's kind of working itself out. At one point, there were 8 teams tied for first place in the Big South. Furman and VMI, the Keydets lead 35-34, 2:40 left in the first half. I mentioned Wofford and Chattanooga, 18-17. Wofford on top, about 90 seconds left in the first half there. And again, we will bring Corn back on with us from up in Spartanburg when that game goes to the intermission. And the Citadel and Sanford, they don't tip until 8 o'clock. So that catches you up on all the basketball scores involving the local teams in the one SEC game that is in progress. We can take some phone calls here as well before we say goodbye for the night. 800-956-7266. We can squeeze in a call or two here in our last 15 minutes or so. Also, you can drop us an email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. And if you want to interact with us in 140 characters or less, you can do that 24/7. Go to our Twitter feed @SportsTalkSC. Follow us and interact with us there. If you're a Facebook guy or gal, go to Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network, like us there, and voila, you'll have access to everything we have access to. Quick timeout. Some Cliff Ellis and Korn from Spartanburg coming up. I do have that halftime score from Colonial Life Arena for you. USC women on top of LSU 48-20. So Dawn Staley well in control of that one. A little frustration being taken out on the LSU Tigers by Dawn Staley and her Gamecocks. Let's head up to Spartanburg, where Wofford and Chattanooga are at the half, and Kornblut is back with us now. Korn.
Yeah, Dawn Staley would like this game. You know how much she likes down and dirty defense and ugly games, especially when her team is creating the ugliness on the defensive side. We've got that on both sides here. 19-18 at the half. Chattanooga leading Wofford. And as you can tell by that score, neither team is shooting it well. Both teams really clamping down on defense. Of course, not a surprise from Wofford's standpoint. Wofford, the best defensive team in the Southern Conference, but they're doing a great job against Chattanooga, which is one of the top scoring teams in the league. To hold Chattanooga to 19 points is great, but Wofford's only got 18, and the Terriers, they shoot 25.9%, 7 of 27. And if Justin Gordon weren't making some shots, he'd be in really sad shape. He's got 4 of their 7 field goals. He leads the Terriers with 8 points. Their leading scorer, Carl Cochran, he has 6 points, but only 1 of 5 from the floor. Leading Chattanooga, their leading scorer on the season and in this game, Casey Jones, he's got 12.6 rebounds. He's headed towards his 6th double-double of the season. He's 6 of 8 from the floor. Chattanooga at 45%. But Wofford's defense has made life miserable for the Mocs. They've turned it over 13 times here in the first half, and that's limited them to just 20 shot attempts. Wofford with 27 shot attempts despite being out-rebounded 18-12. Neither team is doing anything on the glass. It's really just one shot and nothing more. Wofford just 2 offensive rebounds and Chattanooga with just 1. And that is it as far as the significant stats. So, you know, in terms of a football game, you'd call this a real hard-hitting, physical kind of game. That's the way it's looked out there. A little sloppy, especially on the Chattanooga side with the turnovers. A little sloppy on the Wofford side from a shooting standpoint. We'll see what happens here in the second half. But it's been an exciting game in terms of the competitiveness. These two teams getting after it very hard. Wofford trying to sweep the season series from Chattanooga, having won earlier in the year in Tennessee. So it's a 19-18 Chattanooga lead over Wofford KMAC as we are at halftime. Looking forward to what should be a really tight and intense second half.
Yeah, the home teams have done well in your presence for the most part this week, Korn, except for Clemson. I guess they lost. But
I'll say this. At least I'm seeing some good basketball. The Clemson-Notre Dame game the other night was a terrific basketball game. Back and forth, really tight, exciting. Both teams played hard and enjoyed it. And then last night was a great game. There were over 20 lead changes in that game last night. And really the final score doesn't indicate how close it was. Southern kind of pulled away late. They got a little run there in the last 4 or 5 minutes. But outside of that, it was nip and tuck the entire way. That's what I think that's State Man's favorite show, Nip Tuck. Is that right? I think we discussed that last night.
Yeah, never seen it, so thank you.
Not funny 24 hours ago we did it, but even less so now.
I think it was funny then. I think it's even funnier now. I'll be the judge of what's funny on this program.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So, anyway, great game last night, and so we're going to see another one here. But that's what you expect. I mean, Clemson and Notre Dame. Clemson was playing extremely well. Notre Dame's a top 20 team, top 15 team. Last night, 2 of the top teams in the Big South, and tonight 2 of the top teams in the Southern Conference. So it's good basketball. We got more than good basketball, exciting basketball being played outside the ACC and the SEC in this state. The Big South, Southern Conference in particular, they're giving us some really good, exciting games this season. And, you know, as we head towards March, we'll have a chance in our state to have a couple of teams in the tournament. I mean, Wofford's going to have a very good chance to win the tournament championship. Again, the SoCon and the Big, those are one-team leagues when it comes to the NCAA tournament most of the time, almost all the time. So Wofford will have an excellent chance in Nashville to win their tournament, and Coastal and Charleston Southern in particular at the Big South tournament in Conway in a couple of weeks. they'll have an excellent chance to win that and get to the tournament. And, Clemson, unless they make that loss the other night really sidetracks them, I think. That would have been a great opportunity for them to start to put together a little run here and maybe position themselves as a team. Can't see that happening now. In South Carolina, of course, I don't know. Not even sure they'll make it to the NIT. They're just looking to show improvement and a better record this year than last year.
Another in-state score that I've tracked down, USC Upstate in North Florida, 36-36. So there's some offense for you at the half. Spartans being led by Shaquez Stevens, who has 10 points and 6 rebounds, Corn. So at least one of the Upstate teams has its offense at the gym tonight.
Yeah, that's another team that we should mention with NCAA tournament aspirations and possibilities. Had Eddie Payne on with us earlier in the year. They've played really good basketball all season long, too, so keep a watch on Upstate. Could have 2 teams from Spartanburg getting in. But I tell you, watching Wofford in person for the first time, I hope they'll shoot it a little bit better here in the second half. I'd love to see Carl Cochran get hot. He's their best shooter. He's their best scorer. I'd like to see him get it going and see what he can do. But Chattanooga's just D'ing them up right now and not allowing them any second shots, and they're doing a good job. And conversely, Wofford is as well. So we'll see if either side can emerge offensively here in the second half.
Well, Cochran did get a steal in the first half that moved him number 1 on Wofford's career steals list, 214 for him. So he's getting it done on the other end of the floor, at least, if the shot's not there.
Yeah, he's a terrific player in the Southern Conference level, and he's had a great career here, and he's a senior leader of this team. So we'll see if he can get it going a little bit here in the second half. They missed a number of shots inside. Chattanooga is a taller team, and I think they affected some of those shots around the rim. And conversely, Wofford was very tenacious on defense, harassing the Chattanooga shooters at every point on the court, so never really let Chattanooga get comfortable in their offense. So that's why you got a 19-18 game here at halftime.
38-38 Furman VMI at the half. And, oh, by the way, Corn, who's going to call plays for the Green Bay Packers next year?
I think it's going to be Tom Clements.
Tom Clements?
Isn't that his name?
I don't know.
I mean,
tell me.
Announced that,
I'm asking you.
Announced that,
Mike McCarthy, he can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, I think that he said that. I think the assistant's name is Tom Clements. I think he's the guy that's going to call. Is this like a dig at the Packers? Is that
they're in shambles right now.
Well, this is a head coach recognizing that maybe someone else might be better. I don't know. Mike McCarthy made his name calling plays when he was in New Orleans. That's the reason the Packers hired him, was for his offensive ingenuity. But as a head coach, look, Spurrier, he lets Junior call plays. He lets G.A. Mangus call plays. Dabo let Chad Morris call plays. What's your point?
Nothing. Just asking you what's going on with your team. That's all, Corn.
All right, listen, when the Panthers have a winning record, you check back with me.
Okay. I will.
Get back to me on that.
Yeah. You're going to knock the local team. All right, Corn, enjoy your second half. We'll be back tomorrow, a Friday edition of the program, and it's opening day in college baseball. How about that? So a lot going on tomorrow night on Sports Talk. We'll see you then. For Corn up in Spartanburg, for the Pope behind the glass, K-Mac here. Have a great Thursday night.